It is 7 o'clock on Monday, November 1st, and we'll call this meeting of the City Commission to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gary,
Here.
Commissioner Bauer,
Here.
Commissioner Bospis-Rath,
Here.
Commissioner Collins, Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Talentino,
Here.
Commissioner Twardy.
Here.
Commissioner Collins did call and say he wasn't able to make it tonight, so we'd need somebody to excuse him.
So move.
Support. It's been moved and supported. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
He is excused. So if everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We've had a couple of comments that the volume has been hard to hear on the TV and on the YouTube recording, so if all the commission could make sure they get not on the microphone, but a little bit closer, and Bonnie is going to tweak it a little bit in the back, so hopefully everybody can hear us. Mayor comments and general announcements, I have none this evening. Proclamations and recognitions, we have none. So we'll move right into C, which is public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments on any of the scheduled agenda items this evening? Anybody in the audience? Justin?
I'm not 100% sure if it's already woven into the items, but both F2 and G8.
All right, Justin Nepper would like to speak on F2 and G8. Anybody else that would like to speak on any of the scheduled agenda items this evening? Yes, sir.
I'd like to speak on G8.
Dan Dasho would like to speak on G8, which is the Splash Pad Committee project update. Anybody else that would like to speak on that one? That isn't already speaking on that one? All right, thank you very much. So we will move on into the item D, which is the consent agenda. Deputy City Manager Troyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Under the consent agenda, 1, approval of the City Commission meeting minutes of October 18th, 2021. Item 2, acceptance of the Airport Advisory Board meeting minutes of July 8th, 2021. Item 3, acceptance of the Airport Advisory Board meeting minutes of August 12th, 2021. Item 4, acceptance of the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board meeting minutes of August 8th, 2021. Item 5, acceptance of the Economic Development Corporation meeting minutes of July 12th, 2021. Item 6, acceptance of the Economic Development Corporation meeting minutes of August 10th, 2021. Item 7, acceptance of the Police and Fire Pension Board meeting minutes of September 15th, 2021. Item 8 is from the Chippewa County Treasurer, tax foreclosures. Item 9 is consideration of lot split from SSMRD LLC to create an out parcel at 2510 Ashman Street, AKA Goodwill Plaza. And item 10 is approval of the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager Troyer. Would any commissioner like any of the items further explained? Anybody like any of them removed for individual consideration? All right, Commissioner Twardy.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Bospis-Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Moving on into item E, which is special orders of business. Now we'll go to City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up first for commission consideration is approval of the special assessment rolls to be rolled onto the property taxes this December. Part of this process involves a public hearing, which was scheduled during the last meeting, at which you, Mr. Mayor, will need to open, receive comments, and close. But at the conclusion of the public hearing, we would look for motion to confirm the single lot assessment rolls SL2N-21 and SL2W-21.
Thank you, City Manager. So we will now open a public hearing to confirm single lot special assessment roll SL2N21 and SL2W21. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments at this time? Again, this is a public hearing on special lot assessment rolls. Seeing none, we will close the special hearing. City Commission, any questions or comments? Commissioner Miller, would you like to make that motion?
Thank you, Your Honor. Motion to confirm single lot special assessment roll SL-2N-21 and SL-2W-21.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Baspis Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Gary.
Yes. Motion did pass unanimously. Thank you very much. Also under E, Special Orders of Business, number 2, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to approve 2 included resolutions with this particular item to designate the Salmon Way Runway as a new street under our Act 51 map. As the commission is aware, the Salmon Way Runway is the section of road that runs to the Seafree Center and possibly to the new Carbide Dock when that's completed. As that is a new street, we need to add that on to our Act 51 map. So this particular item will approve the 2 resolutions that will help do so.
Thank you, City Manager. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Commissioner Twardy.
Just technical, is it Salmon Way Runway or just Salmon Runway?
I always say it wrong. It's
Oh,
Salmon
okay.
Runway, I'm
So it is
sorry.
Salmon Runway? Okay, because I like that a lot better than Salmon Way. It seemed a little redundant, but,
No,
okay.
I
all right.
apologize.
Okay, that's okay. I was just clarifying. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any questions or comments? Commissioner Talentino, since you can now see Salmon Runway,
Yes, because the blue building
would you
has
like to
been
make the
removed.
motion?
Absolutely. Motion to approve the include resolution accepting new Salmon Runway as a reconstruction and new portion to our Act 51 map.
Support.
Been moved and double supported. Any questions or comments? A roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Baspis Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Gary.
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on into F, Communications. Update on RRC program. City Manager Chapman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. For commission information tonight is Chris Germain with the MEDC RRC team. The commission may be aware that the city started going down the Redevelopment Ready Communities process a couple years ago. Since that time, we've made some headway on some of the program requirements, but recently the MEDC has kind of revamped the RRC program as well. So I've asked Chris to come here tonight just to give you an update on what the changes are, where we're going, and what we've got done and what we have to do yet. So with that, I will turn it over to Chris.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Welcome, Chris.
Hey, everyone. Good evening. So, yeah, as Brian mentioned, my name is Christopher Germain. So I'm with MEDC. I've been the Redevelopment Ready Communities Planner for the entire UP since about 2017. I also cover the Thumb region downstate and basically every other random region of the state, depending on kind of how the week goes. So I'm really excited to be here with you today. Brian and Kelly and I met virtually in, I want to say September. Was it that long ago, Brian?
Something like that.
Something like that. It all blurs together a little bit. The city kind of basically stalled in the RC process at the stage. That's really common, to be honest with you, especially as communities get into their 4th or 5th, in some cases 6th and 7th years in the program, and they still haven't quite gotten to full alignments. And so one of our really missions as a team is to kind of try to capture momentum and to create it when it doesn't exist, right? And then kind of keep the ball rolling from there. So came up here from Grand Rapids tonight to have a chat with you guys and kind of give you a status update about where things are at and how we can help you move forward going through the process. So Brian, is this up? Okay, perfect. So turn this into presentation mode so you can all see the shiny stuff. So I apologize. I brought the snow tonight. I did not. I picked this picture before I knew this was going to happen. I swear. But I do love this picture. So it's a real quick refresher just on MEDC in general. We are a quasi-state agency, so we're a mix of a state strategic fund and then also a nonprofit strategic fund. So we can really meld those kind of two pots of money. So there's state employees and corporate employees. But in general, we live in three kind of main buckets. There's our business development arm. That's what most people think of when they think of economic development agencies. Most counties have a very similar economic development commission or agency as well. There's Pure Michigan, which we're all terribly familiar with at this stage. I lived in Ohio for 7 years, and it made me so darn homesick I came home 5 years ago. So it's very effective. And then there's a third arm called community development. And this is actually what sets us apart from a lot of other statewide economic development agencies, in that we invest quite a bit of money at the state level into creating vibrant communities, because that actually gives us the leg up over a lot of other states where they can go toe-to-toe with us on packages in terms of dollar incentives and tools you can use. But we offer all sorts of vibrant communities that a lot of other states around us just quite frankly can't beat in a lot of ways, right? We have the water and the natural resources and the great downtowns people want to live in. And so that really gives us that leg up. So that's really what we do at community development. RRC is our foundational tool within there. So in order to be competitive for all of our other incentives, we ask communities to be engaged in the Redevelopment Ready Communities program and working your way through that. The principle of it really is that you establish a vision for what you want to become as a community, and then we help you put the framework in place to get you there, right? So everyone looks a little different in the way they're kind of going through this process, but there are 6 main best practices that everyone goes through. So this gives you an idea of the breadth of the program, the depth of the program, excuse me. We have 294 communities currently in the program right now. When you joined, it would have been like 50. You know, it was a very different program at that stage. 59 have reached full certification across the state at this stage, including 3 in the UP currently, which would be Marquette, Houghton, and Bessemer. Escanaba also used to be certified and chose not to renew their certification last year. So, but you have a lot of friends in the program, kind of going out through the region as well as down south. So, as I mentioned, there's 6 best practices in the program. This is really what sets us apart from all sorts of other red tape cutting, pro development types of programs, is we don't just focus on that part of it, right? So we work on establishing that vision through those plans and engagements, and then you coordinate your zoning with that, and then you do kind of like the red tape cutting kind of stuff, right, where you're having a key development review process, and then you move on to some slightly squishier stuff, but just as important, right, which is your boards and commissions, making sure that you all and your planning commission, your DDA and your ZBA and your HDCs, and all those boards have the information that they need to make those legally binding decisions that they're making in a lot of cases that impact development. And then there's an economic development and marketing best practice that deals with exactly what it sounds like, having economic development strategies, tools, and marketing for the community. And then there's a 6th best practice that happens actually after communities fully align, which is called redevelopment ready sites. And so that's where you're more proactively identifying these sites that you want to turn over and working with us hand in hand to actually attract development to those sites. So that's really the tangible value of kind of going through the program, is that last best practice. So when the city joined the program roughly 5 years ago or so, there was only one path. Every community was heading down the certified path. You know, we were a smaller program. We were only a few years old at that stage. That made a lot of sense. The same 6 best practices applied very differently, right, in dozens of communities across the state. When everything kind of shut down last year, you know, we were already having a conversation internally about whether that made sense for us now that we had grown to 300 communities, right? So now we were working all over the place. We have just as many in the UP now as we had when we started, right, in the whole state. So a very different scale. So in February of this year, we launched what we call RSC 2.0. We're not marketing experts, so that was the cool first thing that came to our mind. But it now offers 2 paths for communities to pursue. There's still that certified path that looks very similar to what was in place when the city joined the program. But there's also an RSC Essentials path, which focuses on a narrower set of core foundational best practices. The idea is eventually communities would pursue the Essentials path, they would get there, and they would keep working towards certified in the long run. But there's a lot of communities in this state that, quite frankly, the Essentials package is a real win for them in a lot of ways. And they don't necessarily need the additional proactive kind of over-the-top stuff that comes with the certified package. So when we launched this, we kind of gave communities a choice. You know, what do you want to go through? And so we started to have conversations with everyone. Brian and Kelly and I have settled on the Essentials path, at least initially, for this city, which we think makes sense. We agree with that decision. Of course, you as council could, or commission could change your mind, you know, at any point in time. But this gives you an idea of kind of the difference in the workload. So that Essentials path has 23 criteria. The certified path has 36, right? So right there, immediately less of a workload on your staff and your other officials to go through the program. But they do stack nicely on top of each other. Both of those are down from 46 that we used to have in the program, right? So the essentials is literally half of what the program was a year ago, making that quite a bit easier to go through. And then within each of those criteria, there's also differences as well. So 2.2 was always a really great example. Before, we would look for everyone to have their zoning code online, that it had to have graphics and tables and charts, that it had to have clear definitions, all these things that are good things to do. Quite frankly, getting your zoning code online was a stretch for some of our communities, right? And so setting that one as let's get the foundation built here, and then you can build on top of that to the certified if you'd like to go. So you'll see all sorts of these little differences between those 23 criteria that apply at both levels, and then there's those additional 13 that only apply at that certified level. But the big question people always have is the benefits, right? Why would I choose one level that feels like maybe a little lower than the other one? Does it come with a whole lot less benefits? And the reality is no, it really doesn't. And it's because we view essentials as, like I said, a real win for a lot of our communities. And so we tried to build a package that makes sense for both those sizes. So no matter which designation a community now pursues, they still have access to RSC planners, and we're assigned regionally, so we get to know our regions and then the networks and the people that we work with really well. Both designations still have access to technical assistance match funding. The city has at this stage used up all its match funding on an economic development strategy and a couple of other things that we'll talk about, but would have access to that if you hadn't used that up. There's ongoing assistance as well, just in terms of libraries and help and support. Every designation comes with a marketable asset, so you still get to, even at the essentials level, get to have a party and have this really cool handcrafted award and still work with developers and have that that additional stamp of approval that you wouldn't have otherwise. Access to special discounts is also applied to both, but there are some additional things if you get certified, just because there's more to do for certification. And then the big one for most of our communities, quite frankly, is that prioritization factor that I talked about earlier. We look when a community comes in and asks us to participate in deals, one of the first questions we say is, are you engaged in RSC? Are you making self-investment in your own planning and zoning type of stuff? We do a lot of deals in the Sioux. I mean, that's no secret. And so, making sure that we can keep the Sioux in a stage where you're competitive for our tools is to our benefit as well. And so you get to be competitive at either designation under this. So before, right, where you had to pursue certification, go all the way, you can now pursue essentials, maintain that prioritization factor that you otherwise would have had to do that additional certified level work for as well. So the only real difference, quite frankly, between the two at this stage is access to what we call a redevelopment services team. So our fully certified communities get that. They currently have that as well. That is a team of internal folks at MEDC that comes in and actually helps our certified communities package sites and connect them with developers and hold showcase events and do market studies. And they work on those sites that are a little harder to turn over, right? They just need that extra little nudge maybe to kind of help it over the edge. And so the Escanaba jail site was a redevelopment ready site that was worked through. If anyone knows the story, that obviously didn't work out quite as we had hoped, but it definitely got the ball rolling when it had sat there for years and not moving. And we've seen a lot of success downstate with that team as well. So that would be really the only benefit if the city got to essentials and decided to stay put there. That would be the only benefit you wouldn't have access to. But you could at any point in time, like I said, once you get essentials, decide later on, we're ready. We want to go all the way to certified. And it's packaged to do that. So this is the process in general of RSC. Just as a refresher, there's 6 phases. There's engagement, baseline, decision point. Then you integrate the missing best practices. So that's really where you're at. You've been in that stage for about 4 years at this stage. That's not, to be honest with you, that crazy of a length to be in that stage. So our average length is a little over 3 years to get the certification period for any community of any size. So, and then there's 2 additional stages after that, which is just achieve the designation and then maintain it. Kind of maintenance mode is pretty easy, especially with that essentials designation. At the certified designation, it includes about 8 or 9 annual items, but we don't do any sort of annual reporting or anything like that. We keep it pretty simple. So like I said, communities really have as much time as you need. That's why we're here 5 years later, like still trying to help get the ball rolling and keep moving things. We don't really believe in kicking communities out as long as you're talking to us and working with us. So this is your history in RSC, just specifically to the Sioux. So you engaged in 2016, right there at the end of the year. You got an initial baseline assessment. We called them findings at that time, which sounded a little regulatory to us. So we changed the name a couple of years later. But Coming in at 22% fully aligned with the best practices and 57% partial alignment, that was really good for the time. I'm gonna be honest with you, my average is well under 20 when I write these. As Brian knows from being ambassador, and I think it was 2, is that what it was? So, yeah, so upgrade. So that's how we've done that. So in July, you guys, the commission at the time voted to proceed. And then you went into that fourth phase and started just working on various things. We had annual or quarterly reporting, excuse me, at that stage. And then you had a couple of kind of key projects that happened. In 2018, you started the downtown form-based code, which I believe is still not finished. I don't necessarily think it's your fault. I think there was like a global pandemic or something that might have stalled that a little bit. So, but I hear that's kind of getting the ball rolling again. Later in 2019, Commission did adopt a public participation plan, so that is one of the best practices. We actually paid for that 100% of the cost, which is a little unusual for us. But we had a partnership with the Eastern Regional Planning Agency here in the Sioux, and so we worked with them to do that. And then also later that year, we adopted the economic development strategy, which again, we actually went above our typical match to work with the city to do 60% instead of our typical 50% at that time to help with that. And then right around then, when Brian came about, and then, you know, that global pandemic thing happened, everyone thing sort of stalled. That was kind of the situation that occurred. So then we, like I said, we started working with communities and starting to think about what that new framework looks like. So we got a new DDA director, another new DDA director. Unfortunately, through no fault of the city's own, again, you've had some bad luck, I feel like, with that one. So, and now we're at the stage where we're working with communities to try to, like I said, reinvigorate. A lot of communities have been in a holding pattern for about 1.5 years since everything hit. But we're now out there in the ground working with communities to try to get everything going again and kind of the ball rolling. So this is where you currently stand based on that new framework. And so to kind of give you an idea of that color context, you're actually aiming for the green, so anything that's blue is also green, right? So blue is at certified level, green is that you're at the essentials level, but not the certified. And you have the yellows and the reds. So this one is a little confusing since you're pursuing essentials only. That last row, most of that doesn't apply to you at all. And there's a couple of others, but you're doing all right. The shakeup when we transitioned communities was a little jarring for some communities. We discovered that things that have been done 4 years ago just maybe weren't the strongest, you know, when we were still like a baby program. And so now that we've grown up quite a bit, we went out and actually redid a lot of those baselines and reassessed those things and looked for the documentation that was missing and things like that. So you fell backwards a little bit. Again, that's mostly on us more than it is on the city. And so we're looking to kind of get you moving forward with that, but this kind of gives you an idea of really remains to reach that essentials component for you. Zoning is a pretty big one for you, that downtown form-based code, but there's also some additional zoning stuff that does need to occur. None of it's super major in your case. We have a lot of communities that will come in and you just need to rewrite the whole thing, like just start from scratch. We don't necessarily think that's the case in the Sioux, although you might decide to do that. It's kind of up to you guys. So you have some of that to do. There's website enhancements that need to be made. The thing we always hear with this is, you know, our website's old, we know, we're just gonna update it. I see plenty of really good old websites that are still very functional from an RSC perspective. So don't let that be the thing that holds you up. If you're updating everything, great, go do it. But if that's not already in the budget, don't feel like you gotta go drop 50 grand to go update your website to finish RSC. It's entirely possible to do it with an old HTML CSS framework. So, sorry, I got a little nerdy on you guys right there. And then there's board enhancements. This is the one that typically will trip up a lot of communities for some reason. So this deals with orientation, setting bylaws for your boards and commissions, application procedures, things like that. It's typically pretty simple stuff, but I think it's because it's simple, it gets backburnered in a lot of cases. And so it's always the last stuff to get done, but you have quite a bit of stuff to do around that best practice. Again, none of it major. It just needs to be finished. And then there's a master plan implementation. And this has always been a little bit of a trip up between us and the city. You have a good master plan. It's solid. Your implementation schedule is incredibly broad. Like those goals and objectives, and there's really nothing measurable in there. And so it makes it really hard to implement a plan when there's nothing to actually measure to see how you're doing. And so there's a couple of ways you can do that without updating the plan itself. You know, and something we're willing to help the city do, but ultimately what we're going to be looking for is some sort of taking what you have, those goals and objectives, and converting them to measurable objectives that you can actually achieve, and then starting to do some annual assessment of how you're going on those. Basically taking the plan from a really pretty document to something you're using on a regular basis, and you can measure how your progress is going. So, So in terms of moving forward, just for you, again, you're in that step 4, and so we always just take this opportunity to kind of give communities really 4 pointers. Number 1, hopefully we're going to get the ball rolling again. Now that we're kind of talking and we're coming out of this thing and things are returning to a little bit like normal. So you all as commissioners maybe ask for feedback on certain things. We'll just ask for timely feedback and for you to provide whatever support you can to your staff. It's no secret that Michigan communities never have enough staff. Financially, Michigan is at the bottom of the barrel in terms of supporting our local governments. It's not a great situation. We're aware of it in the RC program, and we tried to build the program around those capacity concerns. But ultimately, I mean, it does take some legwork, right? You just got to roll up your sleeves a little bit and do some of that. And sometimes our most successful communities are actually the ones that have like a little RC ad hoc work group. It's like one official from council, one from the planning commission, staff people who are working on it, just to kind of create that cross collaboration. And it'll typically disband, once they reach that designation. So that's certainly something to think about. Actively work to implement the items once they're completed. So we do go back and we look. So if communities give us something now and then it takes another 2 years to get to the end, we'll go back and look to make sure you're still using that thing that you gave us 2 years ago. So make sure when you're building things that they're things that you actually want to do and you actually want to use, and that you keep using those. Prioritize training is another really big one. RSC, to a lot of communities, is actually a learning opportunity more than anything. You're going to talk about things like housing diversity. You're going to talk about things like non-motorized transportation and economic development incentives and things that aren't really first nature to a lot of us. And so learning about these things and learning about the best ways to integrate them into what you're all doing here in the city is really important. And we provide all sorts of tools and resources to help you do that, but ultimately it is up to a lot of you as officials to make sure you're getting educated on these particular issues so you can give your staff the guidance that they need to integrate this stuff in well. And then providing the funds. We always throw this one in there that last because it's the least popular one, but you might need some money to finish some of this stuff. We understand that's kind of why it takes some time, right? You go through an annual budget process, but be thinking about things like zoning and be thinking about things like a marketing plan if you end up going to that certified level. And some of these things you could do a bare bones minimum version of them, or you could put a little bit of money in there and have something that's going to last, stand the test of time, versus something that you're just doing for a certification. So these are also just a couple of resources we always want to make everyone available. If any of you, if this is the first time you've heard of RSC, which I don't know, it might be, you can actually take RSC online training as well, so that's free. It's at your own pace. It's about 6 hours worth of training. You have 2 months to complete it. So we have people who literally do it on their lunch, or they'll do like 10 minutes in the morning every day. It's kind of up to you how you do that. So you can sign up for that at RSC training. There's an RSC library, so we don't leave our communities really hanging for anything. Every single best practice has examples from other communities already. So if you're like, well, we don't have a boarding commission application, let's just go see what other communities are doing. You'll find like half a dozen examples just sitting right there on a website for you to kind of pick and choose and customize to what you want to do. There's also technical assistance match funding, which we already talked about. So you guys have used that already for the economic development strategy, marketing strategy, and then that public participation plan. I will say once you reach a designation, that pot resets. So that's pretty nice. So if you become RSC Essentials and then you need some additional money to help work on a particular project related to planning and zoning, we become a source of funding for that you didn't have access to before. So that's a really nice benefit of RSC. And then there's direct technical assistance. So that's when Brian or Kelly pick up the phone and ask for my actual help to work on things. That is something that we have not traditionally had the capacity for, but we now do. So we're really looking for those examples. So to help create internal review process documents and board handbooks and all that kind of fun stuff, we can definitely actually provide some direct hands-on help. And then just those collaborations as well. So we work very closely with Jeff Hagan in the Eastern UP planning region and everyone there in their office. And we intend to continue doing that. So keep that in mind as you're working through stuff. If you're on the social media, I'm just required to give you this plug. I don't have Twitter. I don't know if any of you have Twitter, but it's there. I heard that Twitter is the best one. And then here is, I mean, I think it's just the most active one that we have. And then this is my contact information if any of you need it. So from this thrilling presentation that I know you were all very excited to hear.
And we'll send the presentation out to you all tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Chris. Certainly very comprehensive. You know your subject matter well. Is there anything you wanted to add, City Manager?
No, I just want to give you guys an update on what we're working on and where we're going. So we're a little bit behind the 8 ball in that program. We're going after the essentials. Once we get the essentials, we'll start working towards the certified process. But I know it is something for our communities to work through. I know the RRC is getting a little bit of flack from city managers downstate and stuff like that, but I think there's value in the program, and it's really not anything that we shouldn't be doing to begin with, like boards and commissions, having information available to new members, an orientation process, bylaws, stuff like that. So, I mean, it's a lot of good organizational development tasks that we should be doing already, so. And then on top of the zoning ordinance updates. And I'm sure if you've ever seen Kelly's zoning book, it's a little bit old. So, that's where we're at, that's where we're going.
And hard to find, right, Kelly? Thank you very much, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate it. Anybody have any questions or comments? All right, we'll move on into item F, communications, potential project with CVB and I-500. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission information is Linda Hoth with the CVB and Mr. Nepper. They are going to discuss and give you a brief presentation on a proposed project that Linda would like to spearhead at the I-500 fairgrounds, not fairgrounds, the I-500 grounds. Maybe it could be a fairground.
Maybe.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Welcome.
There's no decision-making tonight. They just want to present you with some concepts and some ideas for consideration a little bit later down the road.
Welcome, Linda and Justin.
Thank you, Mayor, City Manager, and Commissioners, and Robin. I said, it's nice to be here. I said, I haven't seen you in a while. I've been watching you on TV, though, so, okay. And before that, it was Zoom. So I have been around just kind of on the outskirts. Justin and I started about maybe a month ago, because we saw that there was a grant for us. It's not very often tourism gets grants. That we have that ability to go after grants because we're not considered, you know, those so essential, which is so essential to us. But we're going after grant. We took it to the board of directors about a month ago, and they approved to hire Justin to do the grant. The I-500 track, as we all know, we've always wanted to see a million things happen to it. I've been there since the very beginning. In the very first race I was there, my dad was part of the original board. So it's like, you know, it's kind of in our soul. We can't get rid of it. But this is one thing that has been, for me, for years and years. And even when I was on the I-500 board at one time, we wanted to do things in the summertime. We wanted to do more with that property. Well, this is an opportunity where we can actually probably get a grant. And I think we have a really, really good, I think that we could possibly get it. We hired Justin. He's been working hard on it, and he keeps sending me lots of stuff. We got a hold of the I-500 board. They sent us ideas. Of course, I have ideas, and Justin had ideas, and we're pulling all these ideas together. Do you have anything here to kind of?
Just verbal.
Just verbal, okay. Well, we kind of did a little overlay of what we were looking at. So, I mean, it could be a fabulous, and we all know, and I know every one of you know, and I know everybody out there know too, when you're coming down I-75, it's an eyesore in the summertime. It's just, you know, it's an eyesore to a tourism community. And this is one way that we can get it so it's looking good, and it can look beautiful, and it can have good things happening. So we hired Justin, and he keeps asking for more and more. But we can do it. Justin, you want to tell him?
Yes. I just wanted to give the commission a kind of the roadmap of where we're trying to go very quickly. And I also wanted to say thank you to John Badcock and Carrie Bradley from the I-500 board that are sitting behind us. Thanks for all their work. So just very quickly for the commission and the mayor and the city manager and administration, what we identified was an economic development administration under the Build Back Better, under the American Rescue Plan, which is federal grant funding. There was a travel, tourism, recreation fund available. It said when we saw it, and Linda kind of quickly came up with the I-500 as the #1 priority for travel or tourism construction projects. When we talked about it last month, on the website it said it wasn't due till March 2022. So we thought, we have 5 or 6 months to work on this. Well, we decided to call Lee Shuri, who is the original DDA director here, and now he's the Great Lakes Region Economic Development Administration for the federal government guy, and he said there's $26 million in the travel, tourism, recreation grant, and it covers 6 states, and it's getting eaten up very, very quickly because every other big city out there with major travel and tourism, projects, they've already sent in their stuff. Money's going fast. You have until early December to turn this in, even though it said March. So Linda and I and the CVB board and the I-500 board, everybody's scrambling very quickly to figure out how to turn in a very complicated federal grant. That requires a co-application from the city of Sault Ste. Marie because you are the property owner. So we wanted two things that are happening. We wanted to, Linda, as the Visitors Bureau, a travel and tourism grant, it made sense for her to apply, and we didn't want to overwhelm the city in a last minute situation when you guys have done so much already this year. So the Visitors Bureau was going to attempt to be the primary applicant, which is allowed under the grant application process, but the city of Sault Ste. Marie would have to be a co-applicant. And Lee said there's just pretty much 2 items that is kind of ties you to. One is if we screwed up the grant, both the Visitors Bureau and the city would be on the hook to pay back the money. And the other one is just because you're the legal owner of the land, there's about 4 or 5 forms that the mayor or the city manager would have to sign off on if we can pull this together. So where we're at right now, we have to turn in an official preliminary engineering cost estimate from an architect or engineering firm. So we have to go out for bids on that, unless the city engineering department was able to pull it together. I talked to Brian, or the city manager Chapman, a little bit about that. And there's so many different moving parts. For example, on our wish list, we have everything from paving the road going into the I-500 track to building a bridge connecting the 2 bluffs to building grandstands on the banks. I mean, it's a wish list that the I-500 committee has had for many, many years. So what we're trying to do is come up with a total budget number that an engineer architect would be able to pull together, and then whittle it down very quickly based on the matching grant that the Visitors Bureau and or other organizations would have to come up with. It's most likely a minimum of a 20% match. So for example, if we came up with $2 million in I-500 track improvements, there would probably have to be a $400,000 matching grant. So that really has to, that's all stuff we're finding out, every day. It said in the application it could cover up to 100% of the grant. That's what we were hoping for in the beginning. But then Mr. Shuri said, well, because it's so competitive and the money's going so quick, you really need to have a 20% match. So all that being said, what I'm hoping to do and what we talked preliminary to the city manager about is that your next November meeting would be to come with an actual packet with preliminary kind of design concepts, with a preliminary budget, talking about where we're trying to go, the items that the I-500 committee are hoping to see built. Other things on their list included new buildings, updated police buildings, warming stations, LED lighting for the entire track. Everything you can imagine. If you go up there and look at it, it's time for a major update. And on top of that, the goal is to turn this into a potential 4 seasons attraction. So all that being said, it's a very exciting opportunity, but incredibly time sensitive, and we're going to work really hard to pull off, the preliminary application information to bring back to the commission by the 3rd Monday of November, in hopes to get an application submitted in December if it makes sense to everybody. So any questions for Linda or myself?
Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Bauer?
So what would you be looking for from us specifically at that meeting?
Sure. I would summarize it as 2 or 3 items. The primary item would be official approval to serve as a co-applicant, which would require 4 forms to be completed, 4 federal forms. One is called SF424S or something like that. And then a few other forms. There would not be any request for funding at this time. The Visitors Bureau, Linda has had conversations with various elected officials at the state level. There's a major, is it called the Sports Commission?
It's the Great Lakes Sports Commission, and I've already talked to them. Yesterday was day before yesterday was my fourth visit with them, and I will be talking to them again tomorrow. And they have grants out there. So we're going to try to pull them both together at the same time. And we did talk to Lee, and Lee did tell us that we could get a matching grant, a grant that could match it, so it could be.
It's a very, like I said, very quick changes are going on. A lot of information is coming from Lee that we weren't able to relay, even I think to the Visitors Bureau Board in the last few days regarding the match and things like that. So I think it all will come down to when we pull together this preliminary engineering budget, which will hopefully be done soon, and we have a rough idea of numbers, we'll be able to say, okay, our wish list is $10 million, and now we got to get down to something where we feel comfortable with, finding matching funds. So getting back to your question, co-application, an official approval of a co-application where there'd be 4 or 5 forms to fill out. I would say an official, approval of that's all that the EDA needs is just that. But for the city, it would be, making sure you're comfortable with the overall scope since it's on your property, offering any feedback, any concerns or suggestions, and, hopefully, if there's any services that the city can offer, there are some items on our list that we know city engineering could probably come up with quotes for fairly quickly, but we also are scrambling to try to get organized quickly and haven't had a chance really to reach out and organize that. So all that being said, the main thing is the official co-application request.
Thanks.
And I also want to let you know is the bottom line for all of this too, in the bigger picture, is we've always wanted to use that in the summertime. And the possibility of being able to use that, it's a bowl, you guys. You could have concerts there. I mean, it could be bring more and more people to the community. We can bring them in the springtime. We can bring them in the fall time, so that we can have that unity, making money for the track, for the different things, and be able to use it more than just once a year.
Commissioner Twardy?
So we're talking about pulling the matching funds from several other sources, though, and not necessarily from the city of Sault Ste. Marie? Okay.
Correct.
All right, thank you very much. Just to clarify that.
Yeah. I really don't want to ask you for any money.
Thank you.
I listen to Brian all the time.
Anybody else? Any questions?
I will say one other thing. If our RFP for securing preliminary engineering doesn't come in quick enough, we may have to bump it back to the first meeting in December. The EDA pretty much said the sooner the better, early December. It's going to be very difficult to get all this arranged this quickly, but we're going to shoot for it. So either the next week meeting in November, or hopefully the first in December.
Look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Thank you guys for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on into G, business items. Number 1, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next is a request from staff to purchase a new bucket truck. The current bucket truck the city operates really doesn't work for us anymore. It's unreliable. There's frequent breakdowns. So the staff issued an RFP. We received 2 back, in which we are recommending awarding the bid to Sioux Motors. So we would look for a motion to approve the awarded bid to Sioux Motors for the amount of $48,047.
Thank you, City Manager. Anybody have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Bospas-Rath.
I was just going to say, I love seeing a local dealership win the bid, so good job.
For sure.
That's all I was
Commissioner
gonna
Twardy?
say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ditto?
Yep, ditto.
Yeah, it certainly is good to see. So, Commissioner, anybody else have any questions or comments? Commissioner Bospas-Rath? It's an easy one. Would you like to make this motion?
Absolutely. Motion to award the bid to Sioux Motors Incorporated of Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan for the purchase of a 2022 19,500 GVW cab and cases, four-wheel drive diesel truck for use by the street department for the amount of $48,047.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments?
As long as we agree that it's a chassis.
Chassis, yeah.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner
truck.
Miller? Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Mayor Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Baspis Rath?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Number 2, somewhat related. City manager.
Very much related. So this next request is to purchase the equipment to outfit the new truck you just purchased in the last item. Staff issued out an RFP for the necessary equipment to turn it more into a bucket truck. We received one back. The amount is for $114,458,000.
All right, any questions or comments on this item? Unfortunately, not a local vendor, but Commissioner Bauer, would you like to make the motion? I'm sorry.
I should have
Commissioner
asked a
Twardy.
question actually on the last item. Did we get a navy blue truck, or what color truck did we get? All right, thank you very much.
Maybe not navy blue, sky blue, but
Well.
it'll be a blue.
It was
Not
like-
bright yellow, though.
Not bright yellow. All right, thank you. Sorry.
Commissioner Bauer.
Quick
Sorry
comment
for the interruption.
too, is that, because $114,000 plus is obviously a lot of money.
Yeah.
But, the amount budgeted was $170,000. We didn't really say that here, but it's in the packet, and so I think that's worth noting. That said, so move the recommendation as presented that we award the bid to Truck and Trailer Specialties, Inc. of Boyne Falls, Michigan, for the amount of $114,458.72 to purchase equipment to outfit the new sign truck.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Mayor Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Baspis Rath?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. G, business items number 3, city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to purchase another vehicle, this one for our Parks Department. This particular item has 2 motions associated to it. The staff and commission originally budgeted $35,000 for a new pickup truck. We had issued RFPs, which returned 2. One of them's for $41,500, the other's for $44,744. Both prices were over budget, so there's a budget amendment for this purchase as well. Staff would look for a motion to award the purchase of the truck to Jorgensen Sales of Detroit for use by the Parks Department for the amount of $42,912, and then a subsequent motion to increase the budget from the Stock and Equipment Fund line item by $8,000 for a total of $43,000 to come from the general fund.
Thank you, city manager. Anybody have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Talentino, would you like to make a motion?
Sure, Your Honor. Motion to award the bid to Jorgensen Sales Incorporated of Detroit, Michigan for the purchase of a 2022 four-wheel drive, 3/4 ton pickup to be used by the Parks Department for the amount of $42,912.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Need a roll call, please.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Mayor Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Baspis Rath?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Commissioner Talentino.
Thank you, Your Honor. Motion to increase the budget of the Stock and Equipment Fund capital equipment item for $8,000, for $43,000 to come from the general fund.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mayor Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Baspis Rath?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Under G, business items number 4, city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next is a request to enter into an agreement with Brow Crushing Inc. of Sault Ste. Marie to crush up some recycled materials out by the DPW in the amount not to exceed $35,000. With all the construction projects we've had going on the last couple of years, more so this year, we've amassed quite a large pile of concrete that needs to be gravelled up or crushed up behind the DPW. We'll use that to backfill some of the other projects that we have going on throughout the years. We originally budgeted $35,000 for the project, so we will crush as much as $35,000 will get us. So we would look for a motion to award the bid to Brow Crushing Inc. of Sault Ste. Marie for the amount not to exceed $35,000.
Thank you, City Manager. Anybody have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Twardy, that's kind of a short one without glasses. Can you read that one?
Oh, thank you. Forgot my glasses tonight. Motion to award the bid to Brow Crushing Incorporated of Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan for the crushing of recycled materials for an amount not to exceed $35,000.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Baspas Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Gary.
Yes. Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Under G, business items number 5.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request for an application to MDOT for Category F grant to establish a budget for the 3 Mile Road project. So the engineering staff has been working with MDOT on a potential project over by 3 Mile between I-75 spur and M129. This would involve a rehabilitation with crush and shape with 2-inch aggregate to be added before HMA base shaping and resurfacing with some cold mill work incorporated into it. This particular item has 2 motions associated to it, a motion to approve the application for MDOT Cat F funding, as well as a motion to establish a project budget of $525,000 for the project with $375,000 in federal aid and a local match of $150,000 from gaming fund.
Thank you, City Manager. Anybody have any questions or comments on this item?
Just on a note, this is one of the areas that we frequently have claims come in from vehicles hitting potholes. So this will solve a headache for Robin's office once completed.
Excellent. Commissioner Miller, would you like to make these motions?
Sure, thank you, Your Honor. Motion to approve application for an MDOT Cat F federal grant to reconstruct 3 Mile Road.
Support?
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Baspas Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, Your Honor. Motion to establish a budget of $525,000 for the 3 Mile Road project, funded with $375,000 in federal grant and a local match of $150,000 from gaming fund.
Support?
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Baspas Rath.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on, G, business items number 6, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a piggyback off the last request. This one would be a motion to award a survey services contract to Alpine Engineering for the amount not to exceed $18,500. As I mentioned, this is associated with necessary topographic work related to the 3 Mile Road project we just discussed.
Thank you, City Manager. Anybody have any questions on this one? Commissioner Bauer, would you like to make the motion?
Sure. I move that we award the bid for survey services for this for the low bidder, Alpine Engineering, for the amount not to exceed $18,500.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Any questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Baspas Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. G, business items, number 7.
All right,
City
thank you,
manager.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry. Up next for commission consideration is a request to increase the Brady Park Storm Outfall Project budget from $11,700 to $95,800, with $24,800 additional funding coming from the general fund, and the rest to be provided by the Army Corps of Engineers. So, long story short, this is a project that's related to the CSO that's out here on Bingham and Water. There's a stormwater pipe that runs from Bingham through the little grass area there, through the Army Corps of Engineer property, and outfalls into the lock, the river. That system is incredibly old. It is failing and has fallen apart. We originally budgeted $11,700 during the last budget session to assist the Army Corps with this project. At the time, that seemed like that was a necessary dollar amount, but just like anything else, once you start digging and unearthing the infrastructure, you kind of get a better idea on how bad it actually is. So the Army Corps of Engineers has an interest in getting this project done because it's a pipe that runs through their property. They're having some drainage issues. They have done a lot of work up to date. They have a dive team that's been going into the river and working on the pipe from the river side of it. They've been taking out pipe and pushing in new pipe. That's been working, but it won't work moving forward. So now we're going to do a little bit of unearthing and installing some new pipe there. So a large bulk of this project is coming from the Army Corps of Engineers and kind of their in-kind work with their divers, but we will need to increase this project. It is technically our pipe, it is our infrastructure, and so we'll need to finish it. And like I said, it's tied to the bigger CSO project that we've been working on with Eagle as well. So we looked for a motion to increase the project budget from 11.7 to 95.8, with 28 additional funding coming from the general fund and the rest by the Army Corps of Engineers.
Any questions or comments? We certainly appreciate the Corps' participation in this project. They're a good partner. Commissioner Miller.
Am I reading this correctly? Is this, what does it say? The original projected cost was $51,000? Why did we have a project budget of $11,700 if it says the projected cost was 51? Am I reading something wrong?
That was, the other portion was from the Army Corps, correct, Dave? Yeah. So there is the original project budget and then our contribution and the Army Corps' contribution.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Miller. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Commissioner Bospas-Rath, would you like to take that one?
Sure. Motion to increase the Brady Park Storm Outfall Project budget from $11,700 to $95,800, with $24,800 additional funding to come from the general fund and the rest provided by the Army Corps of Engineers with a budget as a federal contribution.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? A roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Bospas-Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. And certainly, last but not least on the business items, thanks for your patience, number 8, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is an update and request from the Splash Pad Committee. They are in attendance, as well as Mr. Nepper. I'm not sure who's going to be speaking on the item, but what we are coming to for tonight is final consideration and a decision on where we want to go moving forward. The group has put together some of their information based on requests from the commission in the past. They've got videos lined up for their patronicity campaign that's ready to go, and we're looking for direction from the commission and which way do you want to go. So with that, Justin or whomever.
Good
Welcome
evening
back,
again,
Justin.
Mayor and Commission. I'm involved with the Splash Pad Committee, especially with the potential patronicity project. That would be to help fund the whole program. I wanted to say thank you to Amanda Tenike and Lisa Young and Debbie Jones and the rest of the Splash Pad Committee and kids that are here. they've been working on this, I think, since 2019. Just a quick refresher, July 1st, 2019, the Splash Pad Committee came to the City Commission, received conceptual approval to use the Malcolm Park area for future splash pad location. And then also they received authorization from the commission to start fundraising. They hit the ground running, raised a ton of money. I think right up until COVID, about 40,000 was raised. About a year went by, a lot of things changed, a lot of things even at the city probably budget-wise changed. And once kind of COVID kind of started getting sorted out, the Splash Pad Committee went back to work, raised some more money, met with the city a number of times, and on June 21st of this year, another presentation took place, and the Splash Pad again received conceptual authorization and also a motion for the city manager to work on a memorandum of understanding with the community foundation, who's kind of serving as the fiduciary with the Splash Pad. We started working on that, and Rotary Club at the same time has been working for years on building bathrooms, so we kind of took a step sideways to kind of coordinate with the city manager the construction of Rotary bathrooms next to the Splash Pad. Location and Project Playground was where we really honed in on, and that's been something that the commission's, I think, been aware of, that being the preferred location for a long time. So tonight, there's a few things that I was hoping to run past the commission. One of the big ones is we just got approval. Under that fundraising authorization back in 2019, we just got approval from the MEDC to launch the maximum value $50,000 crowdfunding campaign through Patronicity, which is a dollar-for-dollar match. If we raise $50,000, they'll give us $50,000 towards the Splash Pad. We had to build out a draft website, put together a video, which I'm going to play, and we wanted to make sure that the commission and the administration was aware, because this is your property. The same thing. Anytime community groups are out there working, we know that we are needing the city's full support, because this is your city property, public property, and we want to make sure we're doing right. We're showing it in a way that is appropriate for the public. So I'd like to play, just to start with, the Patronicity campaign. We just have a week left before they're going through some review processes at the MEDC. They've already approved it, but we have to add just a few items, and then they would let us actually kick it off. And what we were trying to do, upon recommendation from a number of people, Giving Tuesday is in November. I can't remember. It might even be this week or next week. It might just be Giving Tuesday month that we have to promote. But we wanted to use November as that month to really, and going into Christmas, to really get people to give that $50,000. So I'm going to hit play on this video.
In Sault Ste. Marie are ready for our own community splash pad. For the past 2 years, local moms have worked tirelessly to raise funds to make the Sault Splash Pad a reality. The Sault Splash Pad Committee was formed in 2019 and has partnered with the Chippewa County Community Foundation to raise the money necessary to build and install a beautiful splash pad at Project Playground. The Sault Splash Pad will be located in the grassy area near the Project Playground parking lot, located along Meridian Street in Sault Ste. Marie. The splash pad will feature 11 exciting spray features, including water cannons, jets, and even a giant turtle sprinkler. The Sault Splash Pad will be accessible to everyone. Those of all ages with disabilities will be able to enjoy the water. Your support will fund the purchase and installation of equipment and help match a tremendous amount of in-kind labor and supplies already pledged by area contractors and businesses. The Sault Splash Pad Committee has already raised nearly $70,000 in cash and pledges. We need your help to finish the project. $100,000 more is needed. If $50,000 is raised privately, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation will match dollar for dollar, getting us to that goal of $100,000. Donate today by visiting www.patronicity.com/Sault Splash Pad.
So a few things really quickly. One, this is not a public well, it's public because we just shared it on on TV here, but it's not been released. It's not been disseminated. I would love to have, we didn't want to presume to add the city logo, but we'd love to be able to do that. We'd love to be able to, have the city Facebook page, share the video, share the Patronicity page if we launch it, when we launch it, and really help us get the message out on that fundraiser. As was mentioned, we've already raised over $70,000, about 40-some thousand in there was cash and pledges that came in from just for the general construction. And then over the course of the summer, there was a lot of talks with the city about ongoing maintenance concerns, water costs, so on and so forth. And that's really one of the things that the commission had brought up at a last meeting. And so the Community Foundation and the Splash Pad Committee secured a number of pledges to pay for water and maintenance and ongoing costs out for 5 years. There were still some concerns, rightly so. What happens in year 6? What happens in year 20? What happens in year 50? From various commissioners and folks that expressed those thoughts. One of the things I actually was driving here and I thought of an idea. We're really guesstimating a maximum volume flow of water based on kids pushing the button 8 hours a day on all the sunny days of the year. And that's how the budget has been built. I think between $8,000 and $12,000 a year is being proposed. But really, after year 1, and this is what I actually had just texted Debbie Jones from the Community Foundation on the way here. After year 1, maybe it would make a lot more sense to have a 1-year recap and a meetup with the Splash Pad Committee and the city administration or the various people involved in financing and maintenance and say, okay, this is what happened after 1 year. We actually went over budget or we came in under budget. The first year is probably going to be that kind of honeymoon year where everybody knows, everybody wants to go take their kids there, and then maybe it would level off after that. But after that year 1, we could really re-examine and reorient and say, okay, it really is looking like it's going to average this much money. You guys only have 3 years, and you're going to have to go and raise a lot more, or hey, your money looks like it's going to stretch out 6 or 8 years. Those are the types of things I think that the Splash Pad Committee is in for the long haul. And I think the city of Sault Ste. Marie and the commission should be comfortable with the idea that this volunteer committee isn't going to just say, here's a wonderful gift that we're not going to continue to help support and raise money for. So I really wanted to help. We're still working on that long-term budget and fundraising, but we hope that the city commission will understand this as something that we're right there. The funding is on the verge of being raised. Actually, one of the other big things that hasn't been mentioned quite yet that I know of is this Community Foundation their board just approved the purchase of the equipment, which was a little bit of a risky maneuver, but in 2019, the splash pad manufacturer had given us a cost, and as everyone knows, costs are skyrocketing, and we came to the end of our grace period with them where they said, it's been almost 3 years, are you guys gonna get the splash pad going or not? And November 1st was the cutoff before they raised the price up to 25% more. We didn't want to put that burden on the local donors, so the splash pad committee, I don't know if they've actually ordered it yet. Debbie can speak to that, but it's approved to order. The funding that's been raised so far would be devoted to purchasing, I believe it's about $50,000 worth of equipment. We'd raise the patronicity raise the funds through patronicity another $100,000, and we'd be pretty much there to construct in the spring. So all that being said, really hoping tonight for, we're operating under this authorization for fundraising, and unless there were concerns, we'd want to release that patronicity video in the next week and really get rolling and continue to work with the administration, with the city manager on the memorandum of understanding and go into this winter with that funding raised. I think that's all that I have. Any questions or anybody else you'd like to hear from?
Any questions from the commission on Justin's information so far?
All right, well, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate the ongoing support and listening and letting the community really grab a project like this by the horns and run with it. So thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Anybody else from the Splash Pad Committee wanted to speak? Dan Dasho, I think, wanted to make some comments from the public.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. you all work very hard in making Sault Ste. Marie a place to live, work, and play, and you're moving that forward all the time. All you have to do is look around and see what's going on in Sault Ste. Marie. It is moving forward and moving quickly. Things that add to the good part of Sault Ste. Marie are its focus on its children and the parks that you all support. Here's a great opportunity as we move forward at Sault Ste. Marie to see a new addition that's going to bring people and make the people that live here enjoy things even more. And as a grandparent, I've taken my kids out in the state of Washington where they live to the splash pads, and I tell you what, it is a wonderful thing for the summer and for the kids and for the families that come here. As a tourist place, this is a good addition, and I highly recommend it to you all. And again, thank you for your time.
Thanks for your comments, Dan. So, City Manager, do you have any other information, or is there a recommendation for this evening for action, or are we informational in nature?
No, if the commission is ready, we would look for a determination. If the commission wishes to move forward with this project, we would look for a motion to move forward with the splash pad and authorize city manager to finalize and execute the attached MOU.
So let's go to City Commission discussion. Commissioner Twardy.
Yeah, I put my finger up there right away, didn't I? So I have to say that I was talking with a good friend of mine on the phone today, and he told me that we want to be a city of yes, and I want to be a city commissioner of yes. And we want people to dream in our community, right? And come to us with projects with the enthusiasm. I cannot get over Lisa and Amanda, like you're nonstop. And I know I'm going to get emotional just because you guys have just never faltered once. And you've done everything that we've asked you to do. And so at this point, I really don't feel like I can say anything other than yes or want to make a motion on this MOU because you've just accomplished an amazing project. And I'm hoping that it is going to be a valuable asset to the city of Sault Ste. Marie. And down the road, do we have to worry about maintenance and water? Sure, but we don't have to worry about it for quite some time. And just because they have accomplished this, I want other people to come forward in our community and with the same drive and the same passion. And I never want to squash anybody's dreams. So I am in favor of this. I give it up to you guys because really, you worked. And so I'm 100% on board with making the motion to accept the MOU, but I'll yield the floor to another commissioner.
Anybody else have any comments or questions? Commissioner Boswell-Rath.
Yeah, you guys know, I'm in full support.
That's all.
You're a Boswell.
And so
And hormonal.
It's
good to show your emotions.
This is bad.
That's awesome. Sure, Wendy, come on up to the, well, it's for the people at home.
'Cause they can't
We're
hear you.
online, so if you would, please.
Talk about Project Playground. 23 years ago, we were told we were crazy, it would never happen. A commissioner sat here and told the girls that came in front of them that they didn't know what they were doing. The city worried about who would do the maintenance, all these same concerns. And I can't think of a better place for a community than that place right now. So that should be something to think of when you're thinking of adding to it. These same things were told to those ladies that came before the commissioner that many years ago. And we did it. We spent a weekend with that company and we put it there. And yes, there's always gonna be maintenance. There's gonna be maintenance on everything you do.
And for the record, none of us were here back then, so we can't take credit or discredit for that, so. Any other comments or questions from commission? Commissioner Talentino.
The one thing that kind of stuck to me tonight is how Justin mentioned having a meeting. I would like to see those meetings, if we're gonna go through this M&O, to be annually. I don't wanna see just one and done. I think it's something that really needs to be looked at every single year until this, agreement with the city is over. Yes, there's gonna be a honeymoon phase in the first stage, but who knows what happens, 2, 3, 4, and 5 years down the road. So for me, if we're gonna go this route, which is fine, you know what, you guys have done a great job, congratulations. But I do wanna see an annual meeting on this. I do wanna keep, a tight rein on. I don't want this to get out of control either way. Okay?
Thanks, Commissioner. Anybody else? Briefly, please. Just because we're going out of order.
And what I just
Introduce
wanted,
yourself for the record,
Debbie
please.
Jones, Executive Director of the Chippewa County Community
Thank you.
Foundation. And in the MOU, we had put there that we are committing to 5 years of water expense. And we are looking, our goal is to have 57,500 in pledges set before we move forward. That would cover the water cost if the splash pad ran 8 hours a day for 83 days straight. We took the maximum consumption of water, we multiplied it by the city's water rate, and said this is what we're going to raise for the water cost, so that we maxed it out. Now, when you look at realistically, it's going to be more in the $7,000 range. So what we're looking to raise will actually carry us, barring kids using it 8 hours a day, 83 days straight. What we're looking to raise, and the Community Foundation is committing to, because in the MOU it says we're committing to the 5 years at 57,500, should carry us a lot farther than just 5 years. So I like your idea, Tim, of looking at Commissioner Talentino, of looking at it every year, seeing where we stand, so that we know going forward how long it'll last. So.
Thanks, Debbie. And I agree. I think there have been great comments from all the commissioners. I think that when we met in 2019 initially, certainly it was a different time and we had different issues in front of us, and you certainly didn't create COVID or cause any of the issues, but we have different things in front of us. We have pushed you back a few times, and we've talked about financial concerns, and you certainly have come back and addressed all of the issues that we have asked you to, so we appreciate that. And I think Commissioner Twardy said it eloquently, that we certainly, when it is your property, it's public property, and we have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we spend the citizens' money appropriately, but this is a community project, and it's supported by the community, and you are the community, so we do appreciate everything you have done. And we hope that this exercise has made it a better project and made the process better. I know that we've changed our process a little bit because of the way this has gone through. So congratulations on it. I won't say congratulations until we get a passing vote, but Commissioner Twardy, did you want to make that motion?
Make a motion to move forward with the splash pad and authorize the city manager to finalize and execute the attached MOU.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Baspis-Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy.
Yes.
And motion passed unanimously. Congratulations. Thanks for your commitment. We certainly look forward to seeing the culmination of the project. Moving on into item H, city manager announcements and updates. City manager Chapman.
I have none tonight, but I'll be happy to answer any project questions you may have about what's going on out and about.
Music to our ears. Commissioner Miller has a question.
Yeah, I have a question for the city manager. I just wondered where you are with the concession stand at the Puller Stadium. I know it's been an ongoing issue, and some of the bids that you had have been outrageous, and
The bids have been high and the bids continue to come in high.
I'm just wondering if there's any movement or what we can do, what's the next step?
It's really a matter of funding. If the commission would like to contribute more money to that project, I believe we have about 35,000 budgeted for that project. All the bids and all of the information from different sources and different ideas all come back to being about $70,000 to $80,000. So if the commission would like us to bring that topic forward for consideration and possible additional funding, then we can do that. But that's just kind of where we're at. The bids, we looked at it from contractors outside the state, we looked at it from contractors in the state. We looked about using this kind of hood, we looked about using this kind of hood. We've looked at it a lot of different ways, and the price does not decrease. So the commission may or not be aware, depending on how long you've been on the board, the city signed an agreement with Sioux Eagles to allow them to do the concession stand within the Polar exchange. What was the deal? Basically, we would install the new hood in exchange for them buying the hood. Correct, yeah. So they buy the hood, we do the installation. The hood was probably the cheaper of the two components of it by a lot. The hood that they looked at came in about $7,000. And to install that particular hood is about $60,000 to $70,000. And like I said, we have $35,000. Commissioner Talentino's eyebrows just asked a question. So really what it is it's an old system. It was an incredibly old building. It's an old hood. And to make a modern hood fit in that old building, there's quite a number of building codes that we have to comply with to get it up to snuff to today's standards. So there's a lot of different, like I said, there's a lot of different options. We looked there, but bottom line with this one is just, it's money. Do we want to continue to spend, or do we want to add another $35,000 to $40,000 to this project to fund the hood for the concession stands? And you don't have to answer that right now, but if that's something we want to bring back to the commission, we can certainly do that.
Commissioner Miller, would you like that on the next agenda so we can take a
I
thorough
would,
look
Your
at it?
Honor, I would, and I'd like to make
Okay.
another comment too, that,
Sure.
I mean, if you take the Eagle hockey program out of the equation, I mean, it's our building. I mean, eventually we'll have to put something in there because it's to our benefit as well, not just for the, every time we talk about the hood, we talk about the Sioux Eagles, but it's our property, it's our building. So perhaps increasing the budget to get it to fit would be okay, because we're gonna be using that building for a lot of years. So if we can put it on the next agenda, possibly we can get some more money and get it in. Hockey season started already, and I know when I was a kid and we were skating and going to hockey games, that was the, part of the fun was going to the concession stand and getting a Puller burger, or getting candy and pop and popcorn. And I know it's a lot of money, but like I said, it's our building and we're gonna have it for a lot of years to come. Thank you, Your Honor.
It will be on the next agenda. Any other questions or comments for the city manager?
You answered my question.
All right, moving on into item I, matters presented by the public. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments at this time? Mr. Kraus? No? Anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments at all? Moving on into item J, which is matters presented by the city commission. Open it up to city commissioners. Commissioner Twardy.
Just wanted to make a quick comment about downtown trick-or-treating last Friday night. What a wonderful evening. Holy cow. I couldn't get over all of the people that came. It has to be a record. And thanks to all the businesses who participated. It was a great night. It was just so congested down there, but great to see. And I hope that the businesses and the restaurants profit off of this, because that's ideal whenever we have an event downtown.
We never do.
Jeez, come on. You're supposed to lie and tell me. But what a great night. It's, I don't know how many years we've been doing this. Is it close to 40 years it's been going on?
Not sure.
Safe Halloween was a thing of the 90s. I remember that, but maybe Debbie would even remember, but it's been a long time. But thanks to everybody who participated.
Good comments. It was certainly a busy night.
May I follow that
Sure,
up,
Commissioner
please?
Bauer.
You
Yep.
know, I just wanted to clarify something that I just said, because
Late 90s then, so. Good job, it's sustained.
the fact of the matter is, though, that downtown trick-or-treating is one of those events that helps make downtown what it is. So, I mean, even if we don't, profit off of it that day, that's not really what it's all about. It's about the goodwill that's created and the good vibes and, getting people to want to be downtown, whether they spend their money that day or in the future or whatever, you know what I mean? That's what it's all about, really.
Good points. It's a great event, and I know you spend a lot of money on candy, so
Is
there's
true.
lots and lots and lots of candy, so.
We ought to be underwritten by the local dentists.
Yes.
Really.
Any other commissioners have any comments? Commissioner Tuarty.
Move to adjourn this very long meeting.
Support.